All right, what is going on, Banter fam? Welcome into today's edition of In the Game. I am your host, Hustle, and today we will be diving deep into the world of both entertainment and NFTs. As I'm excited to have Brian Unkeless, film producer and co-founder of Clubhouse Pictures, as well as Yossi Hasson, CEO of Metaverse and co-production studio behind Runner, which we're going to dive all into in this edition. And I'm excited to go ahead and get into it on the world of bridging entertainment and Web3. So, guys, how are y'all doing today? I'm excited to go ahead and get into it on the world of bridging entertainment and Web3. So, guys, how are y'all doing today? I'm excited to go ahead and
We've got some feedback going on. I think maybe someone's got your show open while we're watching. I'm
so
doing
too.
well. Hustle, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. I really, it's a pleasure to have both of you guys on and just dive into the project and all the details behind, the thought process and the utility of bridging the gap from, media and Web3. So I'm excited for that. Brian, how are you today?
Process and the utility of guys, I'm having difficulty catching you. There's a lot of feedback and echo here.
He might be listening. Are you listening to the show through your speakers and not headphones? So we can just go ahead and dive into it, Yossi, while he finds some headphones.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Let's do that.
I'm pretty sure that's what's going on here. But if you just want to give a brief introduction of your background and what kind of got you started in Web3 and both just your background in general in business, etc.
Sure. So my background in the Web3 world started in 2013 when I bought my first Bitcoin. I was running an open source software company at the time and got introduced to it through our engineers and just thought this was a remarkable way to make money using open source software. Been involved since then, investing. I built the first blockchain program here in New York City for a company called Techstars, an early stage incubation firm. Invested in a number of protocols in the last crypto winter. So if any of you remember, 2019 was a rough time and starting to feel a little bit similar in the markets today. But been investing ever since then and started and co-founded Metaverse about a year ago as a studio firm that invests in and produces NFTs. We raised about $50 million to go out and do that. And I'm very excited. This is our first production that we're bringing to the market together with Brian, who hopefully is fixing his audio. And we can tell you more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, both of you guys' backgrounds are definitely very intriguing and are impactful. And the fact that you guys are coming over to the Web3 space with all of that experience is super exciting for someone like me who's into this space every single day. So we'll see if Brian also got those issues fixed whenever he joins the stream back. But if you just wanted to go ahead and also dive in, what is the methodology from coming from the media world, the entertainment sector into NFTs? So where do you guys see that power? Because obviously with the comic book series and then on top of that, the lore that's being built behind it, if you want to explain the logic on where y'all see the fit for media entertainment bridging into the Web3 and the blockchain world.
Sure. So if you think of the media and entertainment world, how it stands today, thousands of stories, if not hundreds of thousands of stories, never see the light of day. The only way they get to the market is if big Hollywood studios ultimately decide whether these are going to be produced and brought to life. And you typically have to sell that IP up front before you have really anything. There's nothing in the game yet. And you're selling that IP up front, and the studios then can decide. And what Web3 represents and the opportunity that it gives is that for the first time, there's two things that can be done. One, you can bring new stories to life and build community first and bring that out and see that there's a resonant audience behind the story that you're trying to bring to life. Second, you can bring in that community into that story development. You can make the NFT holders owners of their characters. You can give them certain rights to be able to develop their own stories like we've seen with other NFT communities. And you can go out and build out that lore, that story long before you have to then go and say, yeah, Hollywood studio, I want to try and bring you the story. You've already got a community. You've already got an audience. You've already got believers in that. And why is that so powerful? Well, if you think about it today, X-Men, a comic book series that I'm a big fan of, it came out in 1967. That's a 50-year journey almost before it hit some kind of mainstream large-scale audience. And why was that? Well, that was because no one could really get involved in the story in the beginning. The only method you had was a comic book as a way of getting into the lore of the story. And now what you have is you've got comic books, you've got the ability for NFTs to accelerate the growth of it. We've got the ability to build movies and productions and animations on shows like Netflix and and we've got the ability to create games at rapid speed. So how much quicker can we bring these stories to life? How much quicker can we build the audiences around us? And that is the power that Web3 represents, and why we're so excited about what we're doing here with Runner.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then Brian, can you hear us better now?
I can. Thanks. Can you guys hear me?
Absolutely.
All
So
right.
if you want to just dive in real quick and just kind of let people know on your background, if they don't know exactly who you are, of what you've done, as we Yossi just dove into it for himself. So if you just want to kind of give the people some background on some of your experience.
Yeah, thanks. First of all, thanks for having us on the show. I'm traditionally a film and television producer. I have spearheaded movies like Hunger Games when I was earlier in my career and helped oversee those 4 movies. Have done movies like Bright with Will Smith and delivered that movie to Netflix right at the beginning of their growth for feature films. Have a show I'm really excited about coming up called Mike, about Mike Tyson with Trevante Rhodes and I, Tonya. I've done Birds of Prey, Harley Quinn. So big part of my job is to try to identify stories and IP that have real vitality for film and television. And what's really exciting about this project, Runner, is I think that conceptually it's top notch. It works very well for film and television, but other mediums as well, like gaming, and most notably for today, like Web3, because it presents an entire universe of stories, and we can use the PFPs to help populate that world. So we are telling one story through our comic books, but the PFPs allow us to kind of dimensionalize that storytelling, go directly to our audience, and have people we create the sandbox, and then people can kind of play within that.
Yeah, I love that concept. And, you know, that honestly almost answers the question that I asked Yossi in follow-up, where I was asking him kind of where he sees the gap between entertainment and media, also filling in with NFTs, potentially games, as you've mentioned as well. So that's awesome to hear. And I mean, both of your backgrounds, you know, just speak for itself in general. And, you know, with the project, if y'all want to do a quick TLDR, you know, so just a quick summary elevator pitch for people that don't know the project itself, in your own words, what would be the way that you would describe Runner?
Yeah, so Runner is an entire world. First of all, it's a story that's based around a 21-day epic intercontinental race where there's 12 nations. We explore 4 nations. Each nation sends what's called a proxy runner, a pilot, to race what are these very highly advanced, very specialized vehicles through all types of terrain. There's through obviously mountainous terrain, desert terrain, and along the way they have to form alliances. There's all sorts of battle royale type elements to it to ultimately, hopefully, win the race, and in that way their nation becomes sovereign of the entire planet. So it's a really high charging, thrilling, high octane story that we think is kind of in the middle of this Venn diagram from all these different platforms, because it's anchored in this race and racing culture. It lends itself to a lot of different ways to explore that story. Working with Cedric Nicholas Troyan, who's A-list incredible director, one of the best VFX supervisors in the world before that. Working with Blaise Hemingway, who is an amazing screenwriter, also like great world builder, comes out of the Pixar camp. And then we're working with Sun Creature as an animation house, as our artists who have been nominated for 3 Oscars. So we're trying to bring the highest level of creative execution to this, to really build IP. It's very difficult these days to not re-examine old IP and reboots and things like that, to build from the bottom up IP. And we think that we have the story that lends itself to all these different ways of doing that.
Makes sense. Yeah. Yossi, anything you wanted to elaborate on? I thought that was a fantastic way to you know, visualize the project.
Yeah, I think in terms of like things to add, really what we're saying is we're building a a franchise that over time should rival the likes of Marvel. You've got to think of this as this is our entry into the world of the story. We're starting with a comic book series that people can get. It's actually a little antithetical. We're sending a physical comic book to the people that register today, and we'll get a physical limited edition comic. But that comes with a collector's edition NFT that gives you your access pass to be able to then mint the PFP, the characters of this world that is coming out later this year. And those collector edition NFTs that you'll get by buying the comic book will also give you a whole bunch of upgradability in the production of the cars, the vehicles that are coming next after these PFP characters. You can see them here racing these different vehicles in the comic book lore. So all of that is being thought out in how we bring this to life and tell the story. The world of Omega, where Brian just explained this 21-day race with 4 nations amongst many that compete against each other. There is so much lore and story in it within each of these characters. But the way for us to bring people into them immediately is through this comic book element. But then the NFTs come out as the PFP and the vehicles, and then from there you can imagine where we want to take it with both Brian's capabilities and skills in making some of the best movies in the world, our ability as a studio on the gaming side. Where do we take that from there? Well, the world is our oyster, and you can use your imagination, and that's where we come up with this term Media 3, where we're reimagining how Web3 enables us to be able to bring these stories to market. And we've also combined that uniquely with the tech, which we can go into a little bit later on what we're doing with Omnichain and how that relates. But that's how we think about it, and that's what we're doing here with Runner.
I absolutely love the term Media 3 too. Taking your backgrounds and your expertises in your given industries, and seeing that utilization and the ability to potentially bring it to the NFT world and bring it even more to life, more personable to even the individual who does have that ownership potential within these IPs and these lores. And I see a comment, and I think that this would probably be common sense, just judging off of the experience in production and storytelling. But someone asked, who is writing the comic book?
Yeah, so Blaze Hemingway, who is our screenwriter for he's a writer for all different formats. He's written the first 2 issues, but has built the framework for many beyond that. He created, along with Cedric, a full Bible, a kind of that provides all the detail and cultural specificity for each of these nations. And so I think it's worth saying, I'm glad you brought up Blaze and Cedric, because I do think the devil is in the details for good story. And what we've tried to do here is we've been working on this for about 1.5 years. So tried to create a fully realized, completely rendered world that we can then look at from different angles to tell different stories. But rather than just kind of rushing this and throwing out some art and then kind of reacting 100% to just the art, we're starting with it's like building a good house. We're starting with the foundation of having, and Cedric and Blaze have done an amazing job of building that all out.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. And one thing that I also do love is that in-depth, obviously the background, the lore, because a lot of these gaming projects now, NFT projects, they try to build out this lore, but none of them have that, arsenal of history of actually building out a storytelling and an experience that the viewer can actually latch onto. And so if you want to explain as well, I know that the comic books are live right now. What is the utility behind owning a comic book, and what future access can it give you in the Runner universe?
Yeah, the comic book is live right now. We have what we're doing is our collector's edition. It's a first edition, limited edition that is out on sale. We only have a couple of hundred left. We opened it up yesterday, and they are coming off the shelves pretty quickly. What's the utility of it? Well, one, it's a physical comic book that can get sent to you if you want to have it sent to you physically, and there's only a limited run of them. That then gives you, later on, will be in a couple of weeks, we'll be enabling anyone who purchased the comic to then get their first edition, collector's edition NFT, and that acts as your allow list pass to be able to then mint a one of the runner characters when the PFP drop comes out. It also gives you limited private access into a private chat on the Discord, where Brian and others and the founding team are there chatting about the movies that they're making, the things that are happening in the world of Omega and Runner, and a whole bunch of just good vibes. And a number of private events that we're hosting throughout the year as we build out our community. The first of that happening next week, if you're in New York City for NFT NYC, we're hosting a private showing of Sleep No More, the show. So if you do grab one of those comics, you can register for the event at that time as well. Limited to 4 per person, so $29, 4 per person is the most you can buy. We're also doing a giveaway for the Banter family that's happening live right now. We can go into more detail about that, but we're giving away 5 of those comic slots to anyone watching the show over the next 24 hours. And all you need to do is go to OmegaX Runner on Twitter, find the tweet where we mention us being live on the show, give OmegaX Runner a follow and retweet that tweet, and we'll be selecting one of you lucky winners, 5 of you lucky winners, to win that limited edition comic and all that utility that I just mentioned.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And, the incentive for the giveaway is also just amazing that you guys wanted to, get involved, give a giveaway out, because the community absolutely loves that. And I see people saying they'll be at NFT NYC. So you mentioned it's like a private showing type of event.
Yeah, so Sleep No More is a show that's been going on in New York City for quite some time. If you've never been to it, it's one hell of an experience. It's an immersive theater show that happens where you as the audience are part of the show. And we'll be having a private party. It's our launch party happening at NFT NYC, and any of the comic book buyers get priority to attend that show.
That is amazing. I'll be out in New York City, so it looks like I have to get my hands on one
Come on,
and make sure I get in the doors.
Yeah, we're gonna make some fun of it.
That sounds awesome. And yeah, I mean, having you guys on the show, maybe being able to meet you guys next week out in New York, that'll be really cool. And that's really exciting. It's almost immediate utility to holding it too, right? It's access into this almost like an inner circle of entertainment minds and people who are working within an industry that a lot of people have a lot of interest in, but in the current mold of it, the current business model, you're not actually inside of these networks or communities that are driven off of entertainment. You're just kind of on the forums and kind of waiting for stuff to happen, news to come out. So any potential inside access into the stuff that you guys are doing is amazing. And then long term, where are the comic books going to build to? Can people maybe look forward to obviously a game, maybe some sort of a TV series spinoff of the comic books? And then how many editions of the comic books will they be? Because I know that this was the first edition.
Yeah. So right now, we really want to do it right for what we are doing, right? So the comics are top notch. They're beautifully written, and the art is spectacular. Fabrizio Costantino did the art. You'll see they're spectacular. We want to do everything top notch. Then we're getting to obviously the NFT drop. We have a lot of plans for where to go forward. From that, everything starts with the story, and what we're enjoying is, like, in the Discord over Twitter, we are talking directly with people that are invested in the story, and it's evolving. And so ideally, this does build to something where there's enough of a grassroots fan base that we will be able to control our creative fate and, frankly, the financial fate of this IP in a different way. And what we need, though, is people to come on board and get excited about it. We're going to do everything we can to make that happen. We're going to keep doing amazing comics. We have a whole lot of great plans to just keep making our audience really happy. And it's really gratifying for me, frankly, to just be in there and talking to people as we're building this. I've never done it. It's a bit of an experiment. I love it already. I love it. And it really informs the process. But big picture, there are a lot of steps that have to happen for this to become a film or TV show, but it's really possible. And frankly, it's possible with our background. We're experienced at doing this, and we know how to do it at the highest level. And if we did it right, for the people that get on board and at this point and are there for the long haul and a part of our community, it's incredibly valuable. I don't think you have to look too far to see how valuable real connected IP is in these streaming wars and where we are with gaming and everybody. And people are so desperate for familiar titles. And you look at Riot Games, like you can build an entire enterprise around it. This is an experiment. We're starting from the bottom up, and we've already felt the real momentum of it and the traction of it. And the sky's the limit if we do this right. But people have to kind of come on board and get excited with us.
Yeah, I agree. And with an IP, I'll let you go here in a second, Yossi. But yeah, my thoughts on that is if the IP catches on and the lore is that strong, with the experience, I don't see why that can't develop into that. Yossi, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, thinking about current market conditions and where people are at today in the world of crypto and broader markets and NFTs, stories are recession-proof. Stories are everlasting. I mentioned
Absolutely.
X-Men came out in 1967. That was the first edition comic that was ever made. If you have your hands on that comic book today, that's worth, a lot of money. But what if you could be part of the creation of that story and the building of that story and the community behind that from day one? That is what we're actually describing here. This is the genesis of bringing what we hope to be that next franchise over time to being able to build that. You're showing the characters of the runners of the world of Omega. These are our heroes. These are our characters that we're bringing into the realm of an NFT that people can own, that they can become part of the community, that they can help shape the story and the narrative. They can own that physical first edition comic. They can get the collector's NFT, and they can be part of that recession-proof story that builds over the years as we go towards an animated film, a movie, board games, the comic book series, merchandise, toys, whatever you can imagine, we can do with a story that takes the world by storm.
Yeah, and
what I would say is, I do think it's worth adding to that is that so often the different platforms are kind of in their own space while they're being developed. It's not necessarily done in concert. So the ideal process for us would be that we can kind of think about this holistically, and that we have it all, like there's Easter eggs and all sorts of different things that are informed by each other. They're talking, they're working together. And so we think we have the foundational Bible and storytellers to do that and to create the world, and that we're not kind of sequentially doing it. Or if they come out sequentially, at least the development of them was done so that they're all cohesive.
Yeah, that makes sense. And, people will latch onto that IP ownership. If the storytelling's there and the lore's there, the actual NFT, the ownership potentially of that IP, you're more attached to it than anything possible that has been done before in entertainment, right? We all have our favorite characters online, and, you can save a background of Batman that you love, or these characters and these lores that you do attach to. But when you actually bring digital ownership, and then with the comic books that link you to all these events and the blockchain, I think it's just a brilliant concept in general. And the use case is definitely so heavy there. So that's awesome to hear. And, in years down the line, this is, I see a lot of entertainment methods moving over here, right? Netflix, I think, has already mentioned in a press release once that they will be considering NFTs on the platform. So however that would work. So in general, in the industry that you've seen, Brian, what would you say? Do you see film, entertainment, TV potentially taking a liking to the blockchain in the future, kind of in a similar method? Would you say that this is kind of where people's minds are shifting? And what inspired you to bring it this way?
I think that people, certainly as a producer, I'm desperate to tell great stories, and stories that are original. And I think that the audience is, while they love the experience of going and seeing kind of movies like Top Gun, which it was amazing, and that are revisiting classic stories, they still do really prize originality. And what's exciting is that I think Web3 can provide one element, can potentially provide the sandbox to create new original stories because it is so community based. There's an infrastructure around Twitter and Discord and things like this where we're on Crypto Banter, where people are talking, they're looking at it, and it can be a connector, right? So I think that's the right way for Web3 to inform traditional Hollywood. And there's a lot of wrong ways. I know people are sometimes frustrated where it looks like a cash grab, or like some celebrity comes in and they print their NFTs and then they're out. I think if we do it in the right way, it can also be good for Web3 and for NFTs in general, because if it does become the place where major franchises can grow out of, it's going to get a lot more attention from major studios, right? So I think that then people will look, right, first and foremost, their jobs are to tell great spectacle, amazing stories. And so like, let's see if this is a place to build that, where that they can do something with it.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. And then, I see so much potential within it personally. So hearing bright minds like yourself and Yossi going over, where you guys see this thing going is absolutely amazing. And obviously, Yossi, with your title at Metaversal, clearly you have a very keen thought to the future of the metaverse as well. So where do you think, that space is going in the next few years? These type of IP experiences, if the metaverse really does become what people think it will, maybe the next digital age and form of social media in a way, where do you see IP like this fitting in, and where do you see the metaverse maybe 5 to 8 years down the line, just to put it at like 2030?
Yeah, great question. And we're thinking along those lines today. Part of what we've done with Runner, and I think one of the questions from your audience was also which blockchain. We've built this on top of a new technology called Layer 0, which is Omnichain. The mint for the PFPs happen on Ethereum. So that's the chain that we all know and love. But what it gives is this optionality to be able to move your NFT easily onto any chain. We see the future of the metaverse being a multi-chain metaverse, where it doesn't matter whether you're on Ethereum or Solana or Polygon or what network you're on, you're able to move across those chains. And it also links into the lore of the story. We have these races from different nations, and they've got different terrains and different advantages, and you've got these vehicles that have been designed by those nations. So what would it look like if we tour around the world, around the metaverse, and we go from a race that's happening on Ethereum today? What are those conditions? And if we move it onto Solana, what happens to your NFT and the characteristics of your vehicle and your car and your runner and your character on that terrain? And how does that work when you then move on to Polygon? And how can that actually play out in real life on these metaverse chains that are happening? So we're building from the day up with that mindset to say, well, an omni-chain future is the future. Let's build our characters. Let's build the technology today to be able to take advantage of that over time, so that we can build that into the story and build that into the gameplay that eventually comes.
Yeah, that's conceptually, like speaking, I agree 100%, and I think that having that I would say the versatility to be able to go between blockchains potentially for different capabilities for your community. I mean, I think that's a fantastic way to go, and I completely agree the sentiment of the experiences that can be created from all of this. I think it's brilliant, and I know. Last thing, I know you sent me a video on Google Drive that you mentioned we might play. Do you want me to go ahead and play that video?
Brian, what do you say? I think he's saying yes. He's muted. Roll the tapes.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's definitely do that. That'd be great.
Okay, awesome. Let's do it.
The never seen trailer.
I thought it was amazing myself.
There's no audio coming.
Now?
Yeah, hang on. I can actually reshare my screen to get that audio for you. 1 second. Let me actually pull it off. So whenever I share it, I click share system audio. And then, because usually sometimes there'll be an echo on some things. So I keep it off for the most part. But I do like the sound effects. So we are going to roll them. Can you hear it now? Perfect. All the characters look so sick. I love that line. You see a race, we see a revolution. And that's really like what the whole project is trying to do, right? Y'all are trying to really revolutionize, all of your guys' backgrounds, putting it all in one, and you bring it into a space where, this type of stuff, I think is, we don't have anything like this in the blockchain right now to this level, with this level of minds behind it. So, I mean, I'm rooting for you guys completely. And like I said, I'm picking up a comic book right after the show, and I will see you guys in New York next week.
Thanks. Yeah, no, appreciate that. That is the idea. One of the things in the story is that there's this kind of pinch technology where nations that haven't won for a really long time continue to fall further and further behind. And I think we all can in some ways relate to that disparity. And but this pinch technology allows them to right the playing field and to compete once again. And certainly we feel like this approach and Web3 and looking at what we can do as a community differently will help us push up against the established power structure in a way. And so we want to bridge that gap. And we hope that you guys like it. It's a hell of a run, man. It's been a blast doing it, and we hope you guys like the story.
No pun intended. It's been a hell of a run.
Yeah.
Before we head off, maybe one last reminder from my side. You can head over to OmegaXrunner.xyz. That is our website to buy one of those last comics. And if you want to enter the giveaway, go to OmegaXrunner on Twitter. You will find the tweet where we mention we're live on the show. There's a little emoji. Follow us, retweet that tweet over the next 24 hours, anyone watching the show, and we'll be giving away 5 of those limited edition comic books to have you join the Runner community and come and run with us. Hopefully see you at NFT NYC for our launch party.
That is amazing. Brian, Yossi, thank you guys so much for the time. I know you guys are super busy, and
thank you.
It was amazing having you guys on. Like, really, I'm blown away, and I'm just excited to kind of follow the progress of this in the future. And like I said, hopefully see you guys next week at NFT NYC. And guys, be sure to like the video if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the Crypto Banter channel for videos every single day. I'll be back tomorrow with another edition of In the Game. Be back then. Play well, my friends.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.